Well, earlier this week, the issue of airport security hit the headlines when it was discovered that 2 packages with explosive devices were found on cargo planes headed to the United States from Yemen in the Middle East. Security experts here say the discovery highlights what they say is a serious gap in Australian aviation security. Peter Lloyd has this report.
Air freight is a $28 billion business. 80% is carried in the belly of passenger planes flying into and out of Australia. Passengers in the cabin are subjected to rigorous X-ray security checks, but disturbingly little attention is paid to what's being carried underneath. How much freight is X-rayed?
Very little. There is no available statistics on this. Having been involved with 2 of the world's biggest air freight companies, I'm very conscious of the fact that it's all about expediency, being able to track where the package is, and profitability.
The major operators include Australian Air Express, jointly owned by Qantas and Australia Post, and international companies like Federal Express and DHL. Aviation security expert Roger Henning believes the lack of security screening by these companies is nothing short of a scandal.
It's hit and miss. You've got more chance of winning at Crown Casino than you have of finding a bomb in this system that's going through a freight system onto an aeroplane.
The Federal Department of Infrastructure and Transport is in charge of the system that regulates air cargo. It is a system, say insiders, that makes very few demands on cargo handlers.
There are not specific requirements. It says very broadly that you're supposed to do a risk assessment without saying what the risk assessment requires specifically to be done. There is continual buck passing about how the Act applies. There are holes through it that literally you could drive a Mack truck through. Unfortunately, literally you could fly a plane through it.
Lateline has received specific allegations of how little security checking is done at Australian Air Express. This is a statutory declaration based on statements from current employees who say the X-ray scanning machine was hardly ever used and that the vast majority of packages arrive in a delivery truck, are then placed straight into a can, and the can is then put straight onto a plane. In response, the company said it complies with the rules laid down by government and that it takes security seriously.
What's particularly critical about Australian Air Express is that it carries the bulk of domestic and international parcels around this country. They operate for many, many different operators, courier companies that are here today, gone tomorrow, or could be somebody carrying a parcel that has a bomb on it.
For years, governments and freight companies have argued against regulations that call for 100% screening of cargo. The industry's peak body declined an invitation to speak about the issue, but said in a statement it would present significant logistics and process problems, plus make cargo more costly.
The major cargo companies, the global cargo companies, are extremely profitable. So there isn't any real reason for them to have neglected this for so long.
But behind the scenes, the industry and regulators are talking about just that, 100% cargo screening. This is a confidential report to government on aviation freight security prepared a year ago by the Freight and Logistics Council of New South Wales. It lays bare the threat, saying the attractiveness of freight as an attack enabler may grow, particularly owing to the high proportion of freight carried on passenger aircraft. It recommends the government and industry should work together to develop initial contingency plans for the rapid introduction of 100% screening for air freight, which may become necessary if an attack against a passenger aircraft using air freight occurs. In other words, action following on from tragedy.
It's absolutely clear that if something goes wrong, that people that influence and set the agenda, the big end of town, that is adamant that they do not want security arrangements that cost them anything on their bottom line, that blood will be on their hands when something goes wrong.
Now, if you think you've heard all of this before, you'd be right. This is the Wheeler Report, commissioned back in 2005 by the then Howard government. It's a review of airport security by one of the world's top aviation security experts. It runs to 164 pages, and recommendation number 25 is that all cargo should be screened on all aircraft.
What's happened with that report under successive governments is nothing. The aviation industry blew it up. They said that this is going to cost us time, money and resources.
The discovery at the weekend of devices on planes heading to Chicago may give impetus for more stringent regulations for checking cargo. For the time being, though, the only change is that inbound cargo from Dubai, Abu Dhabi and Qatar must now be screened using X-ray or explosive trace detection technology.
We are a reactive country. When it comes to government, we wait until things happen instead of mitigating the risk.
Peter Lloyd, Lateline.
And Lateline sent a list of questions on cargo security to the Department of Infrastructure and Transport yesterday. We still haven't had a response.